Hi guys, I am Dr. Leah Deutsch. I'm also known as the Yoga Doc, and welcome to your 20-minute yoga sequence for beginners. So for today's sequence, you don't need any special props, but if you've got a yoga block or a brick handy, then do go ahead and grab that. Otherwise, just take a couple of cushions that you can use to give yourself a little bit more extra support, and perhaps a blanket as well to give you some extra cushioning on your knees or for a little bit of warmth at the end of your practice. We're going to start today in a wide leg child's pose, so go ahead and come into that. So you want to come over, bring your knees nice and wide, toes touch, and this is going to be your pose that you can come to at any point if you feel it's just a little bit too much. Always with these practices, listen into your body and do what feels right. If something doesn't feel good, it feels painful in any way, then just stop. Okay, so coming down, as I say, toes are touching, knees are nice and wide. Sit back. You can perhaps use that cushion between your heels and your bum here just to help give a little bit of support as you ease in. And then start to walk your way down to the mat. Maybe have your other cushion to support your head if that feels good. So these are all suggestions, and always just work out what feels good. Yoga is really about tuning into the body, staying in tune with what works for you. It's not about anybody else's practice. So just taking 3 deep breaths to find your grounding center here. And taking a big breath in and out through the nose. Finding expansion through the rib cage as you breathe in. And exhaling, finding the belly, just letting it be soft here as you exhale, letting all the air out. And take another 2 breaths like this. Big inhale through the nose and find opening through the back and into the sides of the ribs. And then exhaling, drawing the belly in, pushing all the air out of the nose. And taking 1 more big breath here. Again, big breath as you expand through the back of the body, that area that's often not reached a lot when we breathe. And then just sighing out through the mouth on this last breath. And letting everything go. Lovely. And just walking your way up to an all fours position, moving your cushions or your blocks out of the way. Coming to a tabletop pose, so here you're going to place your wrists underneath your shoulders, spread your fingers nice and wide here so that your index and middle finger point towards the top of the mat, and the fingers are really spread and grounded. Knees are underneath the hips so that the legs are hip width apart, and find your hips a nice level here. As you inhale, allow the belly to drop towards the floor, allow the chest to glide forward, coming into your cat-cows. Exhaling, tail tucks under, rounding through the back and dropping the head. Moving with each breath, taking another inhale, and gliding the chest forward, opening through the front of the chest. Exhaling, tailbone tucks under, rounding through each vertebra and dropping the head last. One last one here, inhaling. Moving with the breath, moving fluidly and slowly here. Shoulders draw away from the ears, and then exhaling, tailbone rounds down and dropping through the head. Coming back to your neutral spine here, extending the left leg out behind you, tucking the toe. And then maybe if you find a levelness here and you feel stable to do so, push into both hands, lift that leg off the floor. As you exhale, you're going to draw the knee into the chest and round the back in the same way as we were doing with those cat-cows earlier. As you inhale, this time keeping that knee bent, flicking up, so pushing up as if there's a tray balancing on the sole of your foot. Exhaling, drawing the knee back into the chest, pushing into both hands equally as you drop the head and draw the forehead towards the knee. Taking an inhale, allow the belly to drop a little here as you push up with that heel. Exhaling, drawing knee towards the chest, pushing into the hands. Last one here as you inhale, kicking back up, and then you're just going to extend that leg back out again. From here, you're going to draw the knee to the side this time, so drawing it towards the elbow in a sort of half circle way. And then you're going to kick that leg back, so it's going to cross over the left leg, and just sink your hip over to the right side. So you should feel a lovely stretch through the outside of that right hip. As you inhale, come back, so you're going to go do that movement again. So drawing the elbow towards the knee towards the elbow, and then exhaling, crossing that leg back over the right leg, sink the right hip to the side and back a little bit so you feel that stretch. Taking 2 more like this. So as you inhale, drawing that elbow, the knee to the elbow, and then exhaling, crossing back over, sinking down to the right side. Last one. And then from here, we're going to keep that knee bent, and this time we're going to flick it out to the side. So you're bringing that left leg out to the side of your mat here. Now, this may need, you may need, depending on your flexibility, to help yourself get it around there. So from here, I'm bringing the right hand to the side of the right leg and lifting up overhead with the left hand so that you're finding a stretching and an opening through the left side of the body. And finding the breath moving into the side ribs here, that lovely stretch and opening. You can maybe keep the hand pointing straight up to the ceiling if that feels less pinchy on the shoulder. So again, working with what feels good for you. And breathing in, if you're reaching overhead, really stretch through from the fingertips down towards that back heel. And then from here, bring the left hand to the hip and push your way up. We're going to come all the way over, so bring the left hand to the left thigh and reach over to the other side so that you open up through the right side of the body this time. And taking a big breath in and out, and taking 2 more. Maybe the gaze is up to the hand here above your head. And draw that right shoulder away from the ear, avoiding hunching the shoulders. Really nice. 1 more breath. And then we're going to sweep down with the hands, come down to the floor, and just either pause here, depending on your flexibility, again, always listening to the body, maybe have a cushion in front of you that you can rest on, or maybe dropping to the forearms here, spreading the fingers out, and really stretch into that inner thigh. And taking a couple of breaths here. And just really opening up through that inside line of the leg. And keep the hips over the knees here so that you're not sitting back onto that back heel or really stretching forward here. It's a nice balanced soft stretch here. 1 more breath. Lovely. And then pushing your way up and bringing that left leg in. So you should feel that real stretch there. Give your hips a little wiggle and shake from side to side. And just working that out. I'm going to come into the opposite side now, so I'm just going to flip around to work with you there. So coming into the opposite side now, find that setup, so fingertips spread nice and wide, palms are underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Suck in your belly here and then extend the right leg out behind you, flex through the heel. As you find that balance and levelness in the hips, start to maybe lift that right leg off the floor. From here, on the next exhale, you're going to draw the knee towards the chest, drop down the hip. We're going to do these same cat-cow movements with our body here as we use the leg to guide it. So bending that knee as you inhale, imagining that tray balancing on the sole of the foot, exhaling and drawing the knee towards the chest, rounding through the upper back. Inhaling, pushing up, bending through that back leg, kicking up. Exhaling, drawing knee towards the chest. Last one here. Opening up and then just extending that leg out towards the back of the mat once again. From here, you're going to draw the knee towards that right elbow, flexing through the heel, really engaging through the toes, and then drawing that right leg back behind the left. Sink that left hip over to the left side of the mat a little bit and back, stretching through that IT band on the left side. Exhaling, drawing the knee towards the elbow on the right side. Little semicircle there, and then extending that right leg back behind you. Stretch through the outer hip. 2 more here. Exhaling and inhaling. Last one, as you draw that right knee towards the elbow, keep it there, and then see if you can extend that right leg to the side. Maybe just help it along the way here to find yourself in that position. And then you're going to wiggle your left arm so that it's to the left side of the mat and start to reach up with the right. And so you're stretching through the right side of the body. If you haven't got the space in the shoulder or in the room, then maybe bring the arm up overhead, looking towards the hand. If you want to extend that over the top of the head, you can feel a little bit more opening as you do that through the rib cage. And taking 2 more breaths. And one last one. Really nice. And bring the hand to the hip And push yourself up. So we're going to come all the way over to the other side. So doing a little semicircle with the arm and drawing it up overhead. Right hand slides down the right leg and looking up, finding stretch and opening through the left side of the body. And taking 3 deep breaths here. And so in yoga, we're breathing in and out through the nose. And we find expansion and a connection into the body as we do so. And taking 1 more deep breath. Really nice. And then nice sweep down with the arms, keeping the leg as it is. We're just going to stretch out the other side. So taking whatever position you did in the other side, using maybe up on the hands, maybe resting on your cushions or your blocks, or maybe resting down with your forearms. And the hips are above the knee here. So you're stretching out through that inner thigh and just taking several deep breaths here. And taking 1 last big deep breath here. Really nice. And starting to push your way back up. Bring that right knee back so that it's level with the left. Find your tabletop position once more. And we're going to start to come up into our first downward facing dog. So if you're new to yoga, just listening to the cues here to find it. This is one of those ones that the more you practice, the more straightforward it becomes as you become familiar with the positioning of your body. It can feel really tight and uncomfortable to begin with. So, you know, do stick with it and keep going with the coming back to your basics. So hands are shoulder width slightly wider apart and the palms are nice and splayed wide. Press them down onto your mat in the same way as we did with our cat-cow. So index and middle fingers are pointing towards the front of the mat. You're going to tuck your toes and feet are going to be hip width apart or wider. You don't want them super narrow here. Shift your weight back towards the heels so the bum comes towards the heels, and then start to hover the knees off the mat by pushing into your toes. Start to lift your hips as if you're drawing your bum back to sit on your heels. So you're really squatting down here. The weight isn't dumped forward into the shoulders and into the wrists. Spread the fingers wide and then keep the knees really bent and imagine that the hips are being drawn up towards the ceiling so that you're lifting the hips into the air and back. Start to bend the right knee, left heel draws towards the floor. You don't need to get it all the way there. Just stretch through that left hamstring and then move into the other side. So this may mean that you're bringing your legs a little bit further back here so that you've got that length through the front of the body. And then start to just settle the heels towards the floor. And I say towards the floor, you don't need to get them all the way to the floor, especially in those first few downward facing dogs. Now zip up the belly, so draw your belly button towards your spine and you'll find your pelvic floor engage, you find your belly engage, and that will help create that lift through the hips. Shoulders draw away from the ears, and then start to walk the feet towards the hands. And as you reach the top of your mat here, just bend your knees a little, cradle your elbows and drop your head, and take another deep breath here. And as you draw your chest towards your thighs, bend your knees as much as you can to get yourself there. Then releasing that arm, slowly roll up, really taking a moment here to ground into the feet, rolling up 1 vertebra at a time and the head comes up last. You're going to come to the front of your mat and feet are hip width apart, lift the toes up and spread them firmly down to the mat. Bring the palms to face the front of the mat and the shoulders draw away from the ears and the chin is just slightly tucked in. Take a big inhale, sweep the arms wide either side of you up towards the sky. Exhaling, you're going to hinge from the hips, bring the hands wide again, bend the knees as you bring the hands towards the floor. Inhaling, lift halfway, bring the hands to the shin and look ahead. Exhale, hands to the floor, and you're going to step the right leg back, step the left leg back, either in plank or dropping the knees towards the floor, untuck the toes. You're going to gradually, with control, zip the elbows in towards the side of the ribs and allow the body to move down towards the mat. So your whole body is flat on the floor here. Bring your hands about 1/2 foot forward, so fingertips are spread. You're going to come into seal pose here. So you're going to pull the heels of the hands towards the chest. And as you do so, you're lifting your chest up, gazes towards the end of the mat rather than overextending through the neck. Exhaling, allow the body to drop down. Bring the hands back under the shoulders as you tuck the toes, and then push your body back towards that sort of modified child's pose here. Reaching with the fingertips, coming back into your downward facing dog, thinking about those cues that we talked about at the beginning. And take a breath here. I'm going to kick your right leg up towards the sky and then step it forward towards the front of the mat. Drop the left knee and take a big inhale, sweep the arms up towards the sky, opening through the chest. Push into that front leg and then see if you can find a lift through the chest here. And taking another 2 deep breaths. And taking 1 more big breath. Really nice. Place the hands on the floor so that you're framing that front foot. And then you're going to tuck the left toe under, step the right leg back, coming back into your downward facing dog. Really nice. From here, lift the left leg up towards the sky and step the foot to the front of the mat behind the left wrist. Soften the right knee down towards the floor as you push into that front foot. Lift up into a low lunge, opening through the chest. Imagine you're holding a big beach ball with the arms here. Shoulders are soft and chest is lifted. Taking 2 deep breaths here. Really nice. And then placing the hands to frame the front foot. Step the right foot forward to meet the left. Bend the knees as much as you need to. As you inhale, sweep the arms wide above your head and draw the hands to prayer in the center of the chest. Coming through one last vinyasa as you inhale, sweeping the arms up overhead. Exhale, bend the knees, hinge from the hips as you come towards the floor. Inhale, halfway lift as you draw hands to shins and lengthen through the spine. Exhale, hands towards the floor, and you're going to step both feet back now, coming into a plank here. So if this is too much, then you can always drop your knees towards the floor if you need to. Otherwise, if you want to stay with me, you're going to stay here for a plank for 2 breaths. Hug your belly in towards your spine. Find a length through from the crown of the head towards the heels. Really nice. And then either dropping the knees so that you're going to come through that modified chaturanga here with nice control. If it's in your practice and you want to come into a full chaturanga, then by all means do so. Everybody coming all the way down towards the floor. And then we're going to come into a full Cobra, so lengthening through the feet, stretching towards the end of the mat. Push into the hands and draw the chest forwards and up, shoulders away from ears. Inhale, push the pubic backbone down into the floor. And then exhaling, releasing down towards the mat. Wiggle the hips from side to side to release the lower back. And then shift your weight back into wide leg child's pose once more as the toes touch. Head rests down, taking the cushions as you need them, maybe between the thighs or maybe under your head. And just take a couple of breaths here. And then pushing your way up. So coming into hero's pose here, so kneeling, maybe have a cushion or a blanket under your knees if you need to, or between your bum and your heels. And take a big inhale, sweep up overhead. Exhale, bring the right hand to the left side of the left thigh, taking a little gentle twist. Gaze is soft. And try to avoid the urge to jerk the head round here. Instead, use those back fingertips to create lift through the spine, almost like a second spine. And then the gaze can just be either over the sternum or maybe just towards that left shoulder. And take another big inhale. Arms sweep up and coming over to the opposite side. Using that kickstand of the right hand to give yourself that extra elevation through the spine. Hug your belly in towards your back. And 1 more breath here. Really nice. And then releasing back around. Rock to the side. You're just going to come into one final seated forward fold. So if you're able to bring the soles of the feet together, Baddha Konasana, this is cobbler's pose here, butterfly pose. And then holding the feet and pressing the thumbs into the inner arch here, and see if you can just open the feet as if you're opening a book here. And draw the spine nice and long, and either just staying here, this may be enough. You may want to have a cushion under your hips here to create a little elevation that can give a little more length to the spine. Otherwise, if you like a extra challenge, then starting to hinge from the hips, lengthening through the body, maybe resting the elbows onto the calves or the inner thighs. And you're really not overly stretching here, pushing too much. It's more about creating length through the body, hugging the belly in rather than crouching and slumping through the spine. And then you can now come into a nice curved spine. So allow the shoulders to hunch. This is the only time you're going to be hearing me saying this in yoga. And come round through the spine and draw the forehead towards the toes. Again, try not to force this, allow the body to soften in with the breath. Just taking a couple more breaths. Really nice, and then gently supporting yourself to come back up. Take each knee and bring your legs together. And then you're going to come into Shavasana, your final resting pose. So supporting yourself down to that lying pose. You may want your blanket here on top of you if it's a bit chilly in your room. And bring the feet really nice and wide here, so at least the width of your mat. Allow the palms to rest out to the side of the body. Hands are facing towards the ceiling here, the palms facing up. Maybe lift your shoulders off the floor and draw them away from the ears a little bit more. Close down the eyes. And take a brief moment to scan through the body here, just noticing any sensations, noticing any tension that might have arisen. Is the jaw tense? Are the eyes squeezed tight? And just seeing if you can soften those for the final time. And then you're just going to take the next few minutes in a Shavasana pose to complete your practice. This is something that's often underestimated the importance of, and I would encourage you to take as much time as you have and you need here. Otherwise, when you're ready to, just rolling over to your left or right side, whichever is comfortable, and slowly pushing your way up to a seated pose. Just taking a moment to consolidate your practice. Sit up nice and tall here, shoulders away from the ears. Close down the eyes one last time, and either bringing the hands one palm over the other at the center of your chest, or bringing the hand palms together, thumbs pressing into the chest. Taking a big deep inhale, cleansing breath. Exhaling, sighing out. And taking the thumbs to the space between the eyebrow, reminding us to bring compassion into our thoughts. And back to the heart once again, reminding us to be mindful in the way that we love. Have a lovely day wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Namaste.